a train 1,000 miles away from home, sleeping in the rain. I walked up to a brakeman to give him a line of talk. Says, if you got money, I see that you don't walk. I haven't got a nickel, not a penny can I show. Said, get off, you railroad bum, and he slammed that bicycle door. Well, they booked me off in Texas, stayed out dearly long. Wide open spaces all around me, moon and stars up above. Nobody seems to want me, lend me a helping hand. I'm on my way from Frisco, going back to Dixieland. My pocketbook is empty, my heart is filled with pain. I'm 1,000 miles away from home, and I'm waiting for a train. Jimmie Rodgers, Waiting for a Train, one of my all-time favorite Jimmie Rodgers songs. Oh, such a classic, done by so many people. I mean, I probably first heard it from Doc Watson. Of course, Merle Haggard had a classic version of it. Lefty Frizzell's version is probably like my all-time favorite. Lefty was a great singer. So last week, we did a John Hurt song, and it was Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me. Let me get a sip of water here. Well, yep. All right, Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me. And I mentioned that the chord structure was very influenced by Jimmie Rodgers. There's also that little bass run. And I could have put that in there. You can do that kind of stuff. But I thought it would be good to do a Jimmie Rodgers song, because it is, Jimmie Rodgers' music is a specific style of blues. He's considered the father of country music. I always say Emmett Miller really should have had that title. But he was very influenced by Emmett Miller, but also by Frank Stokes. Frank Stokes was one of the very first Mississippi blues musicians. And maybe next week we'll do a Frank Stokes song. I think you'll really enjoy that. But, when Mike Bloomfield did his iconic, epic album, If You Love These Blues, Take Them Home, Play Them As You Please, where he literally plays a composition and then talks you through it, teaches you how, on record. The greatest blues musician of the 1960s to early 70s, without a doubt. I mean, yeah, you could say Hendrix may have been a little better. Bloomfield would have said Hendrix was better, but Hendrix really thought Bloomfield basically hung the moon when it came to that style of music. And so did Eric Clapton, and so did Jimmy Page, and so did all those guys. I mean, the Grateful Dead were essentially playing folk music and bluegrass and a little blues. They heard Mike Bloomfield with Paul Butterfield Blues Band and said, oh, well, that's what we're going to do. And so many bands did that. I mean, there's really no 60s blues rock without Mike Bloomfield. He did one of the songs of that record was a Jimmie Rodgers tune, and he breaks it down and as a blues tune. So, remember, until until the 60s, really. There were a lot of black folks that played country music and a lot of white folks that played blues. Rural people played rural music, and there was a lot of interchange, a lot of exchanges of ideas. I mean, some of the best blues music ever recorded was by Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. Be pretty hard to even find a genre that they would fit anymore. They called it Western swing. It was a mix of blues, country, jazz, yeah, and all kinds of other influences. Texas horns and border horns, Mexican stuff, all kinds of stuff mixed in. Hawaiian war chants. I mean, they were a wild band, and one of the best of all time. You listen to a song like Brain Cloudy Blues or Milk Cow Blues. Those boys could play some blues like crazy. And again, Eldon Shamblin and Junior Bernard, they were playing with distortion and electrified instruments, but there would probably not be a lot of the electric music of the 50s and 60s without Bob Wills, without a doubt, because Bob Dunn played the first amplified guitar. It would happen to be a lap steel. And then, Eldon Shamblin played one of the first Fender Stratocasters. Basically that's where they would try out the new instruments, was Bob Wills' band, because it was the most famous band in the world. But back to Jimmie Rodgers. This is an older style of music, and it's not going to stick to a straight 12-bar blues pattern. Just like in John Hurt's Let the Mermaids Flirt with Me, he's going back and forth between the tonic chord to the 7th, up to the 4, back to the tonic chord to the 7th. Then he gets a 2-5-1 turnaround in there. Chord substitutions, chord progressions, progressions, not substitutions. 2-5-1's pretty standard. That means you're going from F to G to C7 in this, because it's in the key of F. And also, don't be intimidated by playing in the key of F. I know a lot of people are used to playing in E and C and G. F is so easy because you can just slide up into that B flat and come back down. So let's go through the chords first. So you get the... And it's this guitar singing, F, C7, F, F7, B7, using that long A form. And that's actually like a B minor, a B flat, B major to B minor. So waiting for a train, F, back to B. And you see these chords are changing just about every 2 to 4 beats. So, that's the signature sound of Western swing. Jimmie Rodgers was a huge influence on Western swing. If you get the early Ernest Tubb records, you could not tell the two apart. Ernest Tubb was like the main imitator of Jimmie Rodgers before he had an issue with his voice, to the point that Jimmie Rodgers' widow gave him Jimmie Rodgers' guitar. The Ernest Tubb's early records had Jimmie Rodgers written across the fretboard. He later turned that to Ernest Tubb, and he'd flip his over and said, "Thanks a lot" on the back, He was great. Love Ernest Tubb. But anyway, so we started out going... And now we go G, and you can do G7 probably is what it should be. Technically it should be a minor 7, but we're just going to go. And I just went major to 7 again, Back to C7, F, C7, F, F7, B, B minor, F, B major, B minor. We're going to do it F to F7 here. Back to G, C7. And this just going to mix up just a little bit. Gives really a nice tone to the song. We're going to do an A7 this go around. So let's do it again. C7, F7, B, B minor. I think it would be B, B minor, A7, and then back to B minor. Now, I cannot yodel. I cannot yodel to save my life. Jimmie Rodgers just, yodel, whatever. I can't do that. So I just did. And then we're going to play out of this F position. that doing that kind of thing, Waylon Jennings did that because he couldn't yodel either, and I thought it was pretty cool. So sometimes you take your deficits and turn them into assets, right? So we're going, or you can go. And you go back to the verse. But let's go up to the solo now, the break. We're playing out of this F position, which is actually just a C moved up and C. Okay. Now, I'm not doing a lot of alternating bass on this. If I am, I'm just muting, and I probably am doing kind of alternating with a mute. You could certainly play these notes, okay, but you're going to have to figure out what notes you want to walk. You can do that kind of thing, and then I'm just damping and just, so. Yeah, and I am kind of going to a damped. You do that by putting the heel of your hand on top of the strings just above the bridge here. So right there, and that damps them out. You can't really hear the note, but it gives that percussive feeling, okay? So out of this F chord, I'm going here to the C. And then to the second string, also on the 8th fret, open, down, open. Just take those 2 fingers, slide up, 2 frets, back to the F. That's going to be our B flat there, and I'm doing this out of an F-shaped chord, so back to F. And then let's hammer on. So that's, again, we're sliding that F chord up to G, so we go G. So this C7 shape, this is that old Merle Travis style C7 that I talk about so often. We go G, where are we here? G, C, and that's G, B flat, I guess, and E. Yes, B flat to E. And there's the notes of a C7 chord. Back here. Let's not slide up this time. Just give it a little variety, The G, and this time I'm going to do the G7 with the open E string because it's a little bit lower than here. The voicing's a little lower, sounds better. And then, just like the first time, to that A7. That's just a slide from the C and whatever note that is, I can't remember right now, up 2 frets, back down to the F chord. And then so these are essentially, I guess you would almost call them double stops. On all these I'm playing the strings, like here I'm playing the 1st and the 3rd string. And here I'm playing the 2nd and the 4th string. And that's what's giving us that nice bluesy, somewhat slide guitar type feel. And that's it. This is another style of blues you can put into your repertoire. Everybody loves Jimmie Rodgers. I don't care if it's country, rock, bluegrass, blues. Everybody loves Jimmie Rodgers. I mean, he was such a huge star in his day, and life tragically cut short by tuberculosis. But so many of the best do die young. I'm going to go through it one more time in time. Let's see. I guess I could sing a verse and then go into the okay. All around the water tank, waiting for a train, 1,000 miles away from home, sleeping in the rain. I walked up to a brakeman to give him a line of talk. He says, if you got money, I see that you don't walk. I haven't got a nickel, not a penny can I show. He said, get off your railroad bum and slam that boxcar door. And of course Jimmie Rodgers go, yodelay. I can't do it. And then we'll just go. All right, that's it. As always, let me know if you have any questions. Email me, judson@judsoncarroll.com, or leave a comment in the comment section of the video, and I'll get right back with you. Pretty simple song. The only thing I would warn you about is, Jimmie Rodgers recorded in the era of 78 RPM records with a wind-up handle, 1920s. A lot of times people play those records too fast. Sometimes they play them too slow. So if you go through the old books, or if you go through different versions by different singers and guitar players or anything, or web pages especially, you're probably going to see this in all kinds of different keys. I play it in F because I believe that's where he originally played it. It feels comfortable to my voice in F. And he did play a lot in F. He played a lot in F, and he played a lot in C. Those were sort of like his, sometimes G, of course, sometimes D, but F and C were sort of like his signature, and that sounds right to me. Now, you will see this song in the key of G, you will see it in the key of D, you will see it in I don't even know how many different keys, because maybe somebody had that record playing a little too fast or a little too slow. You'll also see a lot of bad transcriptions that maybe leave out that A7. Anyway, I think this is probably the most accurate, at least it is to my ear. And I have spent over 30 years listening to Jimmie Rodgers music. I mean, one of my grandfather's favorites, one of my favorites, one of those things I grew up on with Doc Watson. I think I know Jimmie Rodgers music pretty darn well. And I, of course, huge fan of Lefty Frizzell as well, and Ernest Tubb and Merle Haggard and all those Slipknot guys and Bob Wills, all influenced by Jimmie Rodgers. So I think I got a pretty good ear for it, and I think this is the right way. But if it doesn't feel right to you, feel free to change it to a key that does suit your voice and your ear. So anyway, y'all, have a good one. I'll talk to you next time.